Warning! The following gameplay video was created by a scrub. If scrub gameplay disturbs you, stop the video now. Welcome back. I believe that I've found a solution, or more like I've bought a solution. Well, don't feel bad, I didn't actually get a better graphics card just for this. There's some things coming out, especially Monster Hunter, which is essentially the reason that I spent a fair amount of extra time working at the dollar store to save up some money. Anyway, it seems to be in reasonable working order now. So, let's explore some more of this wonderful place. So it turns out that with a more reasonable frame rate, I can parry a lot more. I should probably switch to the bandit knife for things like that. Though there will be other later instances where it becomes more obvious. Anyway. Yes, so, hooray for the parry. Actually, for these guys, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference if I kill them with a riposte or not, because when they get up, I can just flinch them to death with anything. They don't have shields, nor do they have any protection from flinch, so I can just hit them on get up. Whoa, okay. So it feels like the natural thing to do when I'm playing a game like this is to push my direction control towards the enemy that I want to hit, which leads to those accidental kick or kick equivalent attacks. I'd ask if I could have a separate button for that sort of thing instead, but I don't really know where I would put it. So I guess I'll just have to deal with what I've got instead. Well, of course, I talked about the better frame rate, which is an extremely low bar. You've seen the last one. But we haven't reached the true test yet. Also, I'm sure you've noticed, I'm doing post-commentary now. Well, also, that was the wrong ladder. The reason I'm doing this is mostly because talking while playing Dark Souls it adds a fair amount of stress. I'm not comfortable doing commentary while playing unless it's a game that I'm already extremely comfortable with. Like for example, having played through it before helps a lot with that sort of thing, which is, of course, not the case here. However, I have gotten a request to do live commentary, at the very least for a place that they called Sen's Funhouse, which I assume I'll understand when I get there. So don't worry, if I happen to go into a place and I see Sen's something in the location indicator that pops up when you move from one place to another, I shall enable the microphone. Although, I have to warn you, I'm not actually that good at, I don't know what you say, hilarious reactions. Whoa, that was a really dangerous roll right there, wasn't it? Oh no, I know better than to pick that up. Anyway, the camera still does weird things, but I think that's unrelated to any problems related to computer power. So, last time I went down there, I encountered some large bug things with flamethrowers, which I'm kind of amazed that nothing around here has caused a gas explosion yet. Well, maybe it works differently here than my feeble understanding has led me to believe. After that, though, I usually get pushed off a ledge or some such, and I get surrounded and killed. I beg your pardon. The trick is, I might have died just because I was not very good, rather than because I could not really comprehend what was going on due to rather bad computer performance. We'll see what actually is the case in short order, I think. The pottery in this game has it really rough. Well, that happens in a lot of games. But I say that particularly because there usually isn't even anything in them in this game, yet it still gets abused constantly. Also, this little run disproved an idea I had, which is I thought that I faced fewer of these bugs on trips after I had killed some of them, so I thought that some of them might not have come back. However, that turns out to be wishful thinking. Extremely wishful thinking. Yeah. We'll discuss more of that as we advance, but you'll probably know what I'm talking about already. And that is why I should watch where I'm going. However, I can play the game now, kind of. Also, I'm not surrounded yet, which is a little bit odd and different from last time. Ooh, that is a little dangerous, though. Well, it would not look very good if I was killed by bugs, and it actually looks kind of bad that I was very nearly killed by bugs right here. Furthermore, apparently they see or smell or whatever really, really far compared to other creatures. Right. So, there is something else I want to mention, which is, at this point I hadn't quite learned something rather important about this extremely swampy part of the level, which is there is really no avoiding being poisoned around here. Why did I get a humanity? Anyway. Because of this, I also hadn't realized that, unlike toxic, poison is not instantly lethal or anything of the sort. However, I had an okay reason to be cautious, because I had no idea where I might find another bonfire, or even if there was one between now and, I don't know, the boss or the next big objective or whatever else. However, if I did have a long walk ahead of me, things would not be looking good. Fortunately, I didn't. That fall actually kind of put me in the right direction. I know now that if I'd walked downward, I might have gone the wrong way and not found that bonfire at all, and that would have been scary. Now, at the time that I stopped by the bonfire, I realized, oh, I'm going to have to fight all those bugs again. I didn't quite realize how bad it would be, though. As shown here. If it were just these two that showed up at every return to the bonfire, I'd be pretty much okay with it. But, well, there's a reason that from now on, I'm going to speed up every confrontation after reloading all of the enemies. Yeah. As long as I'm here, every time I want to return to the bonfire and then explore somewhere else, I have to deal with just standing around while the mosquitoes slowly come to me, and then dealing with them so that they don't catch me by surprise when fighting something else or exploring something else. Well, the good news is that now that I have the bonfire there, I'm more free to explore without burning those moss items all the time. So, I have quite a bit of exploring to do, and wow, that was very unfriendly. Oh, I was not paying attention to the placement of those enemies. I thought there was only one over there, and I was clearly wrong. And this is a sequence where I discovered that they cover for each other extremely well. And also, throwing and breaking their weapon doesn't bother them too much, even though I don't really even see any rock around here, never mind places where you could pull out huge boulders. But I mean, Dark Souls already has all sorts of crazy things. It doesn't really have to make sense. There's something else I didn't notice about those bugs before and had to kind of learn the hard way, which is that if you block their attacks, they can just keep on going. And how long they keep on going is just a matter of luck, as far as I can tell. Well, I have some footage lined up for the future which shows some interesting things. Also, I lost quite a few souls back there, but honestly I didn't have too much hope of retrieving them, because that spot where I died is, well, right behind where they all are, and I at this point I don't know if I'd even survive an encounter with one of them, provided I was able to pull one at a time. And this encounter caught me by surprise because I was sure that I had well, I was incorrectly sure that if there were going to be mosquitoes going after me, it would be at the start and from another direction. Whoa. So, more evidence that I have not quite grasped the correct way to dodge roll things. In that instance, I would have been okay if I had sort of dodged in the direction of the swing instead of away from it, but that's obviously not what I did. I wasn't thinking too clearly at the time. Well, now that that's out of the way, for now, so how does one deal with an encounter like that? Well, the typical solution is to pull one of them at a time. And by that I should have said pull the mosquitoes first and then the big guys. And I hadn't quite gotten used to the idea that I'll just have to just walk around being poisoned and not necessarily be afraid of the swamp water after that. And yep, I see some shadows above me now, which I didn't notice immediately at the time of playing, but it kind of worked itself out. Oh, well that's awkward. And that kind of made me wonder about the way those guys were coated, because the previous mosquitoes had no trouble following me a pretty fair distance. But how's that for timing? I decided, okay, the local mosquitoes are cleared, why not pull the monster? Then I saw 2 more of them on the way. But thankfully, they also had that problem of backing off too soon. And this is another case where I should have realized that since I tend to backstab anyway, the bandit's knife is probably good here, especially since the bleed would be strong against our high health pool. However, that drop and rolling attack, that comes out really fast. And, of course, also caught me off guard. I was half afraid that the boulder would just go right through the wall. Thankfully, was not the case. Also, I lucked out a fair bit that the mosquitoes didn't overcome their territory instincts before I dealt with the enemy. So, do these guys drop something different? No, of course they don't. And there's even more of them. And even more. At this point I was kinda not sure how I was going to deal with this, because I was pretty well convinced that I was going to die more trying to explore this part of the map, and having to waste this much time every time seemed, I don't know, really not fun. Anyway, new plan. I obviously don't want to fight both of those guys at once. It's also been a while since I've used a bow, so forgive me. I did have to sort of get used to the controls again. So, I noticed 2 things here. Well, really more like one thing, which is that enemy had a very strictly limited territory, at least in this direction. The reason I said 2 things at first was because it really had 2 implications. First of all, I was probably not going to be able to fight one of them at a time. On the other hand, I could probably just go around them. And yeah, the way I hit one of them and the other one also woke up really kind of sealed the idea that those 2 were coded to work together, most likely. So if I could avoid tangling with them, that seemed like the way to go. Also, this is very interesting scenery. I have to praise the work of the artists for this one. It's really twisted. It looks like wood, but there's really no way of knowing for sure. And of course, spider webs all over the place. Well, some kind of webs. And couldn't seem to find anything else around here, so in we go. Well, at this point I was kind of hoping that Quelaag was something that I could talk to, Especially because I hadn't yet encountered a boss with its own area like this. I hoped for something in Dark Souls. I should know better. Hey, eyes are up further. Like, put that camera up. Oh, just. Anyway, I suspect that at least some of her magic is managing to keep her hair so strategically placed. Well, I guess I had to learn about that move somehow. However, I did not exactly learn the tell for it, which is kind of a problem. Alright, so, I should know how to dodge roll by now. The problem is that in between bouts of this game, I had played other games which had dodge rolls which were, I'll go ahead and say it, more responsive. I mean, I can get used to the timing of dodge rolls in this game with enough practice. However, it's still an added difficulty on top of the usual combat difficulty in this game, and I don't appreciate it. Off camera, I tried it with the keyboard in case my controller was the problem, and nope. There was that bit of delay on the dodge roll no matter what control I use, so I assume it's built in. Now, next goal was to farm up just a few more souls so I can use that Titanite shard. Because I noticed that while a better weapon would not have helped me in that particular boss battle, or that particular run, I should say, I was not doing very much damage at all, and honestly, yeah, right, like I was lying to you before that. But I got the impression that a +6 weapon might not do it, and it was probably meant for me to farm up and use a +10 weapon, but that seemed really tedious and I just didn't want to do it. Actually, looking back on it, it might not be designed for +10 because there are those... Well, there's probably more that I missed, but those large Titanite shards along the way, or that one shard, there might be more, would indicate that the designers kind of didn't expect me to be beyond the need for those yet. So, this definitely looks like a trap, especially with the messages around it that I honestly shouldn't bother to read, but anyway. Turns out to be a whole lot of nothing, which is especially nice because there have been things previously in the game to give you good reason to worry about traps, or monsters that dive from the ceiling, or, I don't know, things that kill you in places with that kind of design. It looks like it's supposed to hold something, but nope. So, at this point I kinda get it into my head that if I'm gonna keep fighting that boss, there really isn't anything along the way that I can't avoid just by staying mobile. So that's my strategy from now on. I say strategy like it's some really complicated thing, but no, it's at the very best it's a small tactic. However, I also noticed that although I can bypass the enemies, I cannot bypass getting poisoned along the way. And given the number of times I'm likely going to fight that boss before I learn how it works, I can't afford to use a piece of moss every time I go in there. Which is a not so great feeling. Excuse me. So, what do we got this time? Now, if I was paying more attention to that dash towards my leftover souls, I would have realized that I had just kind of dodged that particular attack just by moving at all, and thus save myself some trouble in the future. At the time, I was just being too frustrated by these melee attacks, which I, of course, hadn't learned the timing or placement for at all. And there was not much time for me to learn at the time. All I could figure out was, I don't know, I needed to get a better feel for the tell for it and when I should press the roll button. And the reason I kind of emphasize the delay on the dodge roll so much is that, at least for me, it makes the process of learning the correct dodge timing more time consuming for me. I just feel like I learn it slower because I feel like the delay is reliable, but the move feels unreliable because it doesn't do the move when I tell it to exactly. Whoa, that was a little scary. And I'm going to have to deal with that timing problem as I go along, because I suspect that there's going to be a lot of attacks in the future that I can only deal with by using the roll iframes. That makes me really scared, actually, because I would not put it past this game to have some attacks that I have to roll, but the tell is so short that by the time I press the button it's too late, and I kind of have to predict it instead. Really not looking forward to that. Okay. Good news is, I've gotten the timing a little bit better. The bad news is, I've not found out a way to attack her during this move, which is a problem because she uses it a lot, it seems. And of course, that's the other problem. When I'm attacking from the side, an angle like that, the tell is actually hidden. well, I'll see if I can find a way to deal with all that in the next video or two. I'll see you then.